So Apple did it. They dropped the Mac Studio, the ultimate to date Apple Silicon station, sort of in between a Mac Mini and a Mac Pro. So the question is it any good for music? Let's get into it. All right. So just before this dropped, I was about to post a review of me testing an M1 Pro versus the top of the line Intel MacBook Pro. And so this is a Mac M1 Pro with 16 gigs of RAM, terabyte storage. Not the top of the line model, but not, it's pretty more powerful than a regular M1 against a 2.4 i9, 64 gigs of RAM, 8 gigabytes graphic card, 2.4 i9, I should say 8 core also, top of the line machine. And as we all know by now, the M1, at least the M1 Pro and the M1 Max, are more powerful. I was able to get, just to put this in perspective, let's check this out here. So I was able to get, so per channel, I was able to do an instrument playing 4 MIDI notes and 3 effects on there. A compressor. What else was it? Damn it, I forget right now. A compressor, an equalizer, and a ring modulator. That's it. And then a pretty basic synth. And I was able to do that at the same time, triggering these notes at the exact same time on 190 tracks on the M1 Pro and 160 tracks on the Intel. And so based on that, we can already assume that the Mac Studio, being based on an Ultra, on a Max, is going to be even more powerful, and then the Ultra is going to be even more powerful. So there's a big price difference though in those. So just follow me with the math really quickly. So there was 4 MIDI notes times 190, 760 MIDI notes played at the same time versus 640 MIDI notes. Or MIDI, I'm sorry, I speak German, so MIDI, and I think in English it's MIDI, whatever, notes. So we're looking at quite a bit of a difference, but not as huge as I thought. So that could be an indication if you're on an Intel machine, if you want to upgrade or not. And then plugins wise, I was able to play 760 plugins at the same time. That's insane. But also 640 plugins at the same time is pretty insane. Keep in mind, those are Logic plugins. And so they are, of course, more efficient than third-party stuff very often. And user CPU was about the same for both 50 to 52%, but Logic itself was at full maximum. So give you an idea how powerful they are. And this ran in silicon mode, so not in Rosetta. So there's a power difference, but it's not as huge as some of the other benchmarks lead you to believe. And also, what we know, or we've seen some benchmarks where we pitted the M1 Max versus the M1 Pro, and the difference wasn't as big. So we'll have to see how the difference between the M1 Max and the Ultra is. So let me get this out of the way now. Let us have a real quick look here. So the Mac Studio starts at $19.99, and I think, let me get this out of the way. This is the machine to get. This is a great machine. $19.99, it's cheaper than the base level MacBook Pro 16-inch. It's right there with the 14-inch. And you get more. You are getting a Max, and you would only get a Pro in the $2,400 range with the M1 Pro. So you would have to pay extra. It would be over $3,000. If you look at MacBook Pro, if we would be going into a 16-inch here, for example, and if we would be going to a Max with a terabyte SSD storage, we are already in the $34.99 range. If we're going with an M1 Pro and then beef it up, you have that option. Let's check this out here really quickly. We can customize it. We can go into a Max. It's $200 more. And then it immediately bumps you to 32 gigs of RAM. And so we're already in the 32.99 range with taxes, and at least in the United States, we're at 3,500, probably 3,500 euro as well. So that's a lot more money than the Mac Studio in its Max configuration. That's actually the configuration that I recommend. More than powerful enough for music. Now, let's jump in here really quickly and look at the options. This beast here is even more powerful. 48 core GPU, 32 core neural engine, 20 core CPU. But all of that in my book is for is for virtual effect artists, VFX artists, video editors, where every last ounce of graphics and CPU performance count. And that has surpassed the audio world uh, many, many times these days. The amount of pixels, the amount of data that's being moved in a graphic intensive application is just through the roof. Let's look at the event a little bit here really quickly. Um, Forgive me. Yeah, I had this ready, and I want to run through the event with you. So of course it jumps up with the new chip. So the new chip is in essence twice as big as an M1 Max, and the M1 Max is already bigger than an M1 Pro, and the M1 Pro is bigger than an M1. But what I like here is that they didn't simply, just call it M2, and they said no, it is an M1. We just kind of fused two of those together in a very smart way. We're still calling it M1. And so the joke's on all those folks who already told us the specs of what the M2 is going to be, and don't buy an M1 because the M2 is already here. So, always these non Apple people calling what's going to happen. And by the way, it was International Women's Day, so we've seen a lot of females in this whole keynote, which was nice to see. Maybe a little bit on the nose, was a bit obvious. Hopefully, we'll see them come back when this Women's Day is over. Let me enlarge this. Okay, so we're seeing some nice shots. That doesn't work. My bad. Make this bigger for you. Some nice product shots. This shows you the new display, and the display is awesome. It is a 5K display, nothing new here, with an amazing stand. Price point is okay, $15.99. Has an M1 chip built in, has 6 speakers built in for surround sound. So this is the right thing to have. Price is, we'll look at Amazon monitors in a little bit. So, but keep in mind, we're talking about musicians here. We're talking about having a mixer window. We're talking about having an arrange window. So you may need 2 of these. 27 inches also is not big enough. I'm running a 43-inch Samsung monitor, not a TV, a Samsung monitor. It's called the M7. It's a 4K. You can do 2 32-inch monitors. You can do one 32-inch, but 27-inch by itself is a little bit small. So it gets expensive in that regard. But look how small the Mac Studio, do I call it Apple Studio, Mac Studio? What do I call it? The Mac Studio is sort of like an old school Apple TV in a way. Continue on to present. Ethernet is on board. Nothing new there, but you never know what they take away, right? We have our USB-C connectors. A lot of audio interfaces, most of them all USB-C or Thunderbolt, so that's great. USB-C to USB-C or USB-C to Thunderbolt, doesn't matter. Or Thunderbolt to Thunderbolt. And also, for example, on my SSL, the UF8, the UC1, they all are USB-C, so that is nice. It can power 4 of these displays, plus what is that, a wall TV? Are they calling it a wall TV? I mean, doesn't matter how big that one is, but it's a nice studio setup. It's absolutely gorgeous. And then the CPU performance is many times faster, 90% faster than the Mac Pro 16 core Xeon, which is an extremely expensive machine. So you're getting for $4,000 in the case of the M1 Ultra, you're getting, you're spending half or a third even of what you would normally spend on a Mac Pro. These machines are now obsolete. Um, that is quite sad for Mac Pro owners, but I think they are. And we're getting into this time frame where we are seeing more and more Apple Silicon coded plugins. We're still not there yet, which is, I still don't understand that. Well, many plugin manufacturers still haven't figured out how to make it properly for M1. Are they lazy? Is it the pandemic? Why haven't they done it yet fully? Why is two out of three almost ask you to run it in Rosetta? I don't know. It's working, but I'm a little surprised. Almost 2 years into it. Studio M1 Ultra versus 28 cores. That is crazy. And then the GPU performance is insane as well. That doesn't affect us musicians so much. The video memory, I think that is not something that we need. That even the unified memory, which is 16 gigs of unified memory is about the same as 64 gigabytes of normal memory. So 128 is just insane. It's just absolutely bonkers. 18 streams of 8K ProRes 422 video. Not really relevant for us, but impressive nonetheless. And be careful there. It's really easy to get carried away and say like, I need the most powerful machine. I think we're going to be okay with the M1 Max. It's 3.4 times faster than the fastest iMac. And the fastest iMac, not sure what they're referred to, but it's, I think, an 8-core iMac, 10-core iMac even. I think 10-core iMac, yeah. Correct me in the comments, please. But that's impressive. That's hundreds and hundreds of tracks. So we go on. We see the studio here, and look how small. If we go in here, let's see if I can zoom in here. Let's see how small this box is. I think that's really neat to have this. Now, what else is important? What you know it, right? Sound. I'm sorry, sound. Fan noise, right? Fan noise is extreme with my Intel 8-core 2.4 i9, the one that I tested. That's the test that I showed you. There is a lot of noise coming from those fans once that machine gets fired up real and gets going. It takes a long time for that noise to stop. It's a powerful machine, maybe even in some regards as powerful as the M1 Pro. But the noise, it comes in very quickly, even during a Zoom meeting sometimes, and that's just unacceptable. Not that you always have to record on your mixing desk if you're a mixing engineer, but it distracts. It's another sound that just leaks through your ears. It gets to you. It can mask your focus. It's, what is it technically? White noise, pink noise, who knows? But it's and you hear this constantly. So this is already a big win. I'm telling you, my MacBook Pro M1 Pro. I'm sorry, I'm still having issues saying M1 Pro because it's already a MacBook Pro. I just got it. Nothing. I'm doing a 4K screen capture right now. The fans are not on. Nothing. And that's fantastic for music. So that's one of the winning arguments to get this. And I would say, as of a couple of days ago, the MacBook Pros were the most powerful machines, more powerful than the M1 iMacs. Now the Studio is a worthy upgrade to that. We need as much power as we can get in the Studio without going crazy in the graphics department. So yeah, it's a sizable box with all the connections. That display. So less energy. Yeah. Yep. In a studio, that matters. That matters. I haven't done the math if anybody wants to do the math, but we're using, if this thing is constantly on compared to a, God forbid, a cheese grater, I mean, that brings down the whole block's power grid. But just compared to a, normal Mac Pro, that's fantastic. That's good. Environmentally friendly, very important. Somebody may want to fact check these things, but it's a lot better than some of those computers that you see on Amazon or displays that you see on Amazon, cheap plastic and stuff like that. Again, here they sum up what it is. So we have Thunderbolt 4 ports, Bluetooth 5, Wi-Fi 6, up to 8 terabyte SSD. I recommend a 1 terabyte SSD to keep the cost down. You can always add external SSDs with Thunderbolt, or at least don't go over 2 terabytes. And then all these connectors are just beautiful. We're gonna go ahead. Yeah, so here's the display, spatial audio, Dream Machine, Mac Studio starting at. So we all seen this. So let's configure. Let's configure here together. So this video is a bit all over the place. So there's at the Nick Cave concert. It was really good, by the way, at the Los Angeles Shrine Auditorium. And I got some energy still, so I'm doing this. Why not, right? Apple M1 Max with 10 core CPU. You can get the M1 Max with 10 core CPU, 32 core GPU. That does nothing for us musicians. We'll leave it at this. The memory, 32 gigabytes of unified memory. Don't touch that. You don't need as much memory as you think in music. This is a lot. This equates to 64 or 128 gigs of regular Intel style memory. 512 gigabytes of storage. This is a little bit soft. I would go to a terabyte or even 2 terabytes. So for $25.99, you're getting a beautiful machine. And now it's offering you the display. You can say no thanks. We'll discuss that in a second. And here we go, with the MacBook Pro. We've seen that already. In order to go to a Max, the same specs with Max, we're already at $32.99, but we have a lot. We have a great keyboard, we have a fingerprint reader, we have an amazing display, and we can travel with it, and we have the same performance. So you could have this and have a laptop and then travel with it, and then put it back in the studio and have a secondary monitor compared to this. And so it depends. If you're always static and fixed, then maybe the Mac Studio is ideal. If not, even this version of the machine here would be a great buy, because you have two machines in one. So now the display, right? So if we look at the display, let's just look at standard class, stand, tilt, adjustable stand, tilt, and height adjustable stand. You have to pay extra for that. Let's just say we would go with this, with the most basic version, right? Add to bag. Apple Care. See, the Apple Care is a lot. Apple Care Plus, it's insurance and warranty for 3 years. That's $169. It's just like with the Mac Minis. That's fantastic. It's a lot cheaper. And this here, I'll leave this as such. See, the Apple Care here is, wow, it's $399. It went up. Or was it always that? I thought it was $379. So that's pretty extreme. So costs go up with laptops. Laptops are expensive. There is a new Magic Mouse and features nonsense. Or is this just the color? And optimized. So I'm not sure how new this is. I knew this Magic Keyboard with Touch ID and numeric keypad. That is new. $200, not cheap. Wow. All right. So monitor, the verdict's out. Yes, I believe it's the best monitor you can buy at the moment in this size, in this price segment. But you can get so much on Amazon monitor wise. You can get in the $300 to $500 range. You can get 4K monitors. They're all bigger. Not talking about the LG monitors. I would skip these Apple made for Apple monitors. But there is so much out there. There's an LG 32-inch here, 4K with HDR compatibility, 693. Scepter 30-inch, 343. Here's a 32-inch with Thunderbolt 3 connectivity. I don't know why this one is $2,000. But overall, monitors, there is no shortage of monitors, just my 50 cents. Just really read the reviews. Some of them are cheaply made. People complain about them. They're not that great. They're hard. You have to do some reading on them. We have, for example, this one, right? $14.99. You're getting a 5K monitor with a perfect ratio. This is great for music, right? And even video editing. But then people's like, it's really ugly. The plastic is cheap, and it's already expensive as well. So I think the benefit would be to go for a monitor that is, for example, cheaper. Let's say this. Let's just pick one that has good reviews. This one for $348. It's an example, and buy 2 or 3 of these, right? That is much better than having just one from the latest Apple monitor, because for us it's about real estate. Not talking about photographers, graphic designers, VFX artists, filmmakers. It's different. Talking about musicians. Yeah, so that is my take on it. I think Apple really, really did it. Look from the top, it looks like a Mac Mini. I think Apple really knocked it out of the ballpark here. This is just me reviewing this without owning it. Normally, we don't like reviews of people reviewing something that don't own, but won't be here for a while. So I just go by what I see, and I rarely say this right from the get-go. But you know what? Order it. Go ahead. The shipment times are just going to go up. It's going to take longer and longer to get it. I would order it if you're on the fence. If you're coming from an Intel, definitely do it. If you just got an M1, another M1, probably hold off. But if you need a new machine, order this one for $19.99. Add a little bit of storage, and you're good to go. Trust me on this one. Get a display from Amazon, and you have an amazing rig. Order it, and you can always go back to an Apple store and return it or ship it back. That is my review. That is my take on the Mac Studio, or as Apple calls it, the Empower Station. All right, Massivebeatzz out.